food production costs could increase anywhere between 30 to 59%. Across the whole supply chains. And in addition to that, climatic conditions could also increase the cost of food, and in particular in Southeast Asia. So what we've got to look at is, in the short term, what is the transition and how do we mitigate the impact of those increasing food production costs via the introduction of new technologies, better forecasting for farmers, and the ability for foreign direct investment to come in a stronger way in Southeast Asia.
Who's going to be doing that implementing? Is this something that it needs to be country by country, or is there the opportunity for ASEAN cooperation?
There is actually a golden opportunity for ASEAN as we see changes in investment and infrastructure towards Southeast Asia. So, for example, there's been an increase in the amount of investment since 2012 from around 20% up to around 36% now. There's a real golden opportunity for governments in Southeast Asia, as well as the private sector, to work together to be able to invest and strengthen the supply chain. So what you're going to see is a greater need for public-private partnerships, investment from the private sector, financing as well, of course, from the big financing mechanisms like IMF or the World Bank or Asian Development Bank, but including governments who have to look at investing more in their agri-food supply chains.
Right, Matt. This echoes this seems to parallel the shift, at least, towards cleaner energy sources in Southeast Asia. And many leaders we've spoken to across the region actually mentioned that they need something that they call a just energy transition partnership in terms of better financing to achieve these lofty net zero goals. Do you think we're going to need a just food transition partnership as well, in terms of helping provide better financing so that these countries can better climate-proof and also better insulate their food their food supply chains to make sure that they can at least mitigate the risks that you've outlined? Yeah,
they're inextricably linked. As we transition, we know we're going to be using renewable energies to power our farms, power our factories. So there's a symbiotic relationship between the two. So you need, if it's a just energy transition, it's a just food transition as well. And we have to look at some subsidies or support for not just multinationals, but also the whole SME community. So in Southeast Asia, there's an enormous amount of small and medium-sized food manufacturers and also smallholder farmers. They need access to finance and subsidies to support them with this transition too.
Yeah, but the thing too is you're actually hearing from a lot of countries in Southeast Asia, because you do have the likes of Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia that have extended a lot of subsidies to control food prices and tame inflation. There is this call now to try to rationalize these subsidies, because on the fiscal side, it also tends to put undue pressure on the government itself. Again, how do you at least justify, or is there a better way at least to perhaps extend these subsidies while also maintaining, helping make sure that the fiscal risks are at least managed or mitigated on that side?
We know that in terms of, that's a different thing altogether. We know in terms of price controls that can actually skew the cost of food. So what we're saying is, if we can look at the actual energy transition and look at support and subsidies towards implementing some of those new renewable energies on farm or in the supply chain, that's what we look at. On the other side, in terms of price controls and food prices, what we would say is that if we can reduce that, if we can look at having a little bit more open competition and looking at the opportunity for more foreign direct investment to come in to be able to support with this transition as well, that would be far more beneficial.